Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
So Logan, after an uncharacteristically quiet time in the Fantasy Gaming League, 4 games suddenly come out of the bins and drop themselves with varying results, and we've still got more to come. We've got the likes of Star Wars Jedi Survivor coming up, we've got Redfall coming up at 30 frames per second, which we discussed in depth last week, and then we've also got this Zelda lurking, the third or fourth coming of video games.
Your favourite?
What is it with these schedules? Why do they get so clumped together? How's it happening?
Honestly, I find it bizarre in a weird kind of way. I mean, arguably these games aren't necessarily competing with each other in the way that, like, you know, you look in those like Battlefield and Call of Duty, and you know, there's times when they all come out and you go, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
But they're ultimately going to be competing for people's time. And there's a chance that a portion of that audience will always be distracted by other things. But I guess there's an element of arrogance that they probably think, well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's arrogance or it might just be confidence that your game will be the one that will grab the headlines or be the one that people want to play. But there must be some sort of market research that shows at certain points in the year, games tend to be more successful if they're released at those points. I don't know what that would be, but you'd expect there'd be some, you know, gaming intel to suggest that if you release games between, I don't know, before summer and then after summer, but before Christmas, like, because those seem to be the two key areas I find where games are launched, sort of in that September, October, November time, and around this sort of April, May, June time, and they go, we won't touch that because people will be out doing
Once it's
stuff.
too hot, they ain't going to be playing the games. There's another one I always keep an eye on is the March and the lead into March, because that's the
next year.
That's the last chance to get some sales for your end of year results, which will come. And so anything that's delayed a few months and ends up just before March, I'm always like, well, Alan in the boardroom said that's coming out hook or by crook, so there may be a problem there. And we've seen a few examples of that over the years. I think of something like Anthem and Mass Effect Andromeda as well, which were both EA games, funnily enough, and they didn't fare too well. So I always like to keep an eye on that. Anecdotally, I've really struggled to get through Resident Evil 4 Remake. Mainly because I sort of set out my stall where I said, right, I'm not playing that unless it's the evening.
Yeah,
because,
right. Okay, got it.
And we had we had a half decent spell of weather, and it's all gone to pot again around these parts, as it usually does. So playing in the daytime, this room doesn't get dark enough for me, and there's quite a lot of darkness in that game, and any sort of glare really distracted me. Anyway, it took me over a month pretty much to finish that game, which is unheard of for me, absurd. I had the distraction of Persona 5 Royal still lurking as like a part-time gig, but
not a particularly long game, that Resident Evil either.
No, it took me 20.
Yeah.
Which it shouldn't take a normal person that long. I got all the collectible, I got all the treasures, got all the hidden squeaky things you have to shoot, and did all the side quests, and I was taking it pretty slow. So,
did you do all of the merchants?
Done all his requests, done all that took for him, and they're
get
quite
them rats.
Shoot. That's the thing. They are a little bit like shoot these rats. Some of them do offer like a powerful enemy to go back and beat, which is interesting. It's usually like a alpha version of something you've already seen. But it was nice to have in there. It wasn't. You know, you didn't have to do it. The upgrades that you can get from that currency you get for doing those requests aren't essential. There's a couple of guns hidden behind there, which I know will annoy people. But generally, it was a nice little wrinkle to add. But I was really slow at just getting through that game. And I don't know, maybe the clocks going forward meant that the sun was setting a bit later than it usually would, and I was then sometimes like I'm too tired to start a stressful game like Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, it's not something you can turn on and just chill out. You have to be. I imagine you have to be in a place that. I mean, as we've been through many a time, I don't sit there and play through these games, but I've watched 2 playthroughs of it actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can completely understand why people are loving it. But when I was watching the playthrough, it was like, for second playthrough, is like I've cranked this brightness up to max because he was like, I'm just sick of just getting caught out by things that I can't see properly. It's just an irritation. So when you say it's a dark game, it is. Yeah. Right.
But the best time I had playing it was when I'd wait until night and it was dark in the room, and the OLED could come to life then also. So there was definitely an element to that, and it was interesting. Adcock has also finished it, so we should have opinions lurking very shortly. I can get that Pac-Man nailed down. Yeah. He's the Resident Evil man. Yeah, he's tricky to get him sometimes, but generally I can get him. But he's the OG, played all the way back in the originals and whatnot. So his insight will be useful, and then you'll have mine from a more modern take. So we'll definitely be getting those opinions and those impressions and those gallery statuses, if it earns it, over to you as soon as possible. Well, look, let's break out and formally introduce the podcast. This is Idle Game Chat. If you didn't know already, I don't know how you've clicked on it and not seen that's what it's called, but
what is this?
It may have been auto play on YouTube can call. I mean, I turn that thing off straight away because it will often just play a video of like a spoiler of the latest game you're playing. You're like, well, what are we doing here, YouTube? So that goes off immediately. But Idle Game Chat is Dimp Digital's flagship show. Not really sure
that term, flagship.
I like that. I stole that off another podcast. It was a wrestling podcast, but
flagship show. The main event.
Well, it is, isn't it, really? For all intents and purposes, Dimp Digital itself has gone through many iterations of beginning humbly just doing random, I guess, reviews on games that were like 10 minutes long. Then we did the podcast, then we stopped the podcast, then we did other content, then we just did ad hoc content. So... But this has been the sort of the main regular thing that we've been posting for a few years now. So it's absolutely the flagship. I'm your host, Apps, and I'm joined on this edition by Logan, who's our current FGL Grand Prix winner, and of course the resident referee for when we do the Dimp Digital gaming quiz. And we're going to give you some idle chat about video games. If you hadn't figured that already by the opening, where it was just complete rubbish, really, of nothing of use there. If you do want to support us, you can head over to patreon.com/Dimp Digital and join the community. You'll get early access to this show, usually, like 95% of the time. But I believe it's the warm feeling that people get to be knowing they're supporting an independent grassroots, which I know is another favourite one of yours, operation. So patreon.com/Dimp Digital. You can head over there to join that.
If you want grassroots, what are you? That's the question that I've got on it.
Professionals. Because the reason I stole that term as well, again, it's from football this time. They would say playing on Sundays is a grassroots version of the game. So this is
interesting because we're saying that we're not at a level, which I disagree with. I think we are at a level.
No, we're better than most of the pros. But you go over on Sunday, sometimes there's some real thrillers on there, but they just piss heads. They can't be trusted to commit to it full time and get themselves in shape. But you think, bloody hell, they could probably play at a decent level. Yeah, if you weren't such a bloody alky, you'd be all right to play. You could probably play for Southend or go up even to maybe Leyton Orient these days, since they're the only professional football league team that are knocking around these parts. Actually, Colchester are now, but
I think Colchester might be League One, League Two, League One.
No. Southend have fucking blown it, so you know.
They're on the brink of liquidation, so that's where they're at.
It's not looking good. But that's what I mean by grassroots. We're sort of having a go at it, and it's not completely polished. I would argue better than some of the production I've seen on like much bigger podcasts. It's quite eye-opening, the lack of effort that goes into these things. But I just like the term grassroots. It also sets expectations. You don't want to say, well, we're all singing, all dancing, new version of IGN. And they go, well, you're not.
Independent is an important term, though. I like the independent because We're not affiliated. We're not financed.
Not our choice, just that no one wants to.
Yeah.
No one wants to finance or affiliate.
I mean, if someone does want to finance and affiliate, we can happily remove that term.
We'll have some conversations for sure. See how much we can get out of you.
We can call it a grassroots endeavour. Well, it technically ain't even grassroots then. If we got funding, it's just an endeavour. Exactly.
And then at that point, you might as well shut the whole thing down. But no, completely independent. We do buy all our games. We just play what we want to play. I don't think anyone plays anything because they feel like they need to do something for the podcast. But I
don't know. When Arceus is still lurking, there ain't.
Yeah,
you think, well,
that's got to be done. Some say, and then really the opinions we give on the games are always late. It's always just in time of our how we're doing it. But that's how most people play these bloody games. So maybe it's useful for people, or they just like the idle chat. If you want to hang out with us actually whilst we play games, twitch.tv/dimpdigital, you can go there. Drop us a follow at least, because it will notify you when we go live. And if you want to, you can subscribe to support us that way. And if you've got Twitch, so if you've got Amazon Prime, you can subscribe for free. I say free, but you're paying for Amazon Prime, but you'll get a free Twitch membership to the channel, because we are an affiliate over there, as they call it. So that's something to do if you're interested. You may hear more of Logan that way, because he's sometimes lurking in Hall's Call of Duty games, although Hall's stuck on that Destiny rot at the moment. So
there's absolutely no Call of Duty going on at the moment. It is absolutely firmly on the back burner, I think.
Is that for lack of... Is that Call of Duty's fault, or just people have gone cold on it?
It's a bit of both, I think. I think people have gone cold on it because they've chuffed the updates. I mean, I haven't played it maybe for going on 2 months. I don't feel like I've played it since February. Like, even it's just everything they've done just doesn't appeal to me on there.
Everything they've done doesn't appeal to me.
I mean, it could form a whole podcast segment, that, but it's I mean, I don't even know what's going on. I've just got no desire to play it at the moment. It's I think there was an initial bounce for a few months, obviously when they released it last year, and Warzone 2 and sort of figuring out the newness, but they've essentially rolled it back to Warzone 1, and there's even talk now of bringing the original map back and stuff. And I just think, why? I already done that throughout lockdown. That was what kept me through that first period of COVID. So I think, why are we going back to that?
Well, talk about United going backwards. You've got COD going backwards now.
I mean, there's a lot of people that want that. I mean, don't get me wrong, that was kind of peak Warzone for me, the original set of guns and the original map and everything.
Is OG Warzone still out there to play, or has it been shuttered?
There's to my knowledge at the moment, there's no Verdansk map. So I think you can still go out and play Caldera, but they haven't brought Verdansk back, so no. But I'm pretty sure they're still supporting, like, Warzone 1. I don't know whether that's nonsense or not. I haven't tried.
No. I mean, it'd be interesting to be... I know with Overwatch 2, they basically said Overwatch 1's gone.
It was slightly different, though, because with Overwatch 2, they basically took everything really from Overwatch 1, and then... I mean, Overwatch 2 was more Overwatch 1.5 anyway, where it's just built upon and expanded upon what was already there for Overwatch. So it's slightly different, whereas what they did for Warzone 2 was go new map, new guns, new mechanisms, and changed a lot of the play style as well.
Fucking about with things.
And then the community went, oh, and they went, all right, you can have it back. And it's like, well, have some bollocks about you.
Well, they never will.
If you're going to change something, keep it and stand behind it and say, shut up.
Frightened, didn't they? Absolutely frightened. Well, there's a little side effort into some Call of Duty stuff, which is always appreciated. I assume Rocket League's picked up the slack there for you, or maybe Football Manager. Or
I mean, there's been a bit of Football Manager. I've been having a little break lately because I just feel a bit overwhelmed by what's on the Pilates on the old plate. As I'm still trying to work through Harry Potter.
I was going to say, Alan, what's going on there?
I got annoyed at it. Like, I needed a little break from it. I just got stuck in what felt like this repetitive loop with it, and it was just boring me.
But you were trying to do everything, correct me if I'm wrong. You were trying to, like, maybe not 100% it, but doing all the optional stuff. I wonder if that eventually took its toll on you.
No, I mean, the game itself, you find yourself there's a lot of goose chasing. The map is huge.
Yeah.
It can feel overwhelming. But I just found myself in what felt like a very familiar loop with a lot of stuff, and I was just like, I just need to take a little step back from it.
Get out of this.
And then when I did turn it on, the mission that I was doing glitched out, which annoyed me. But so I had to reload my save and go through that again. Yeah, and I just haven't picked it up for the past few days. But that's lurking. God of War in the back of my mind. Still want to complete Arceus. Got Pokemon Violet for my birthday.
Yes. Yes, I forgot about that.
So there's just a lot lurking at the minute. And I'm just procrastinating.
Yeah.
Not doing any of it.
Easier said than done. I'm now full time back on Persona 5 Royal. What I will do is I experimented with Resident Evil 4, like I mentioned earlier. I was playing through that because I wanted to play it and whatnot. I am actually now just going to play Persona 5 Royal till completion before I start anything new. Now, I say that now. I could quite easily get sucked into something, but I think part of the reason why I was sort of half-assed in both of them is because I had two of them on the go, and I've been very disciplined for the last year or so, where just doing one game, finishing it, then moving on. But the excitement of Resident Evil 4 got the better of me, and then I was like, they're two very different games, so actually they shouldn't get in each other's way. But just mentally, sometimes I was a bit like, which one do I be doing here? So I'll go back to my tried and tested method. It'll mean I'm a bit slower. It'll mean I'm going to have to be super disciplined if something new comes out that I really like the look of, and I've not finished Persona 5 Royal. But I think I'll get the best out of the games that way. I'll enjoy them to their full potential. I know you're much more of a buffet man. You know, you're having a few things on the plate at a time of different degrees.
I'm pretty good at getting stuff done, but I've just found myself in a tricky situation where Harry Potter's taking much longer, and I'm still conscious of some of the stuff I've got on the back burner. So I think I'm going to try and make some better progress. I feel like I don't know. The thing is, there's a way of judging your progress on Harry Potter, and I'm more than 50% through the story, but in terms of where I'm at in the story, I'm basically 50% through, and I'm conscious of that. And I think that's what's weighing on my mind is
still a long time to go.
But maybe what I need to do is just go full blast on the story, get that done, and then tick off some of the side stuff if I want to do it later. But I need to start clearing some stuff off the old plate, I think, just to free up the runway slightly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about, I mentioned earlier there's been a few games released in the old Fantasy Gaming League. Let's just check in on the scores of those, and at the end I'll run through the ramifications for the table itself. So what we got here, we've got Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp from Nintendo. Interesting, this one, because this was due last year, and then Putin got all froggy and caused that fucking conflict, which has cost us all energy prices and countless lives, unfortunately, as well. And Nintendo thought, well, this game is about war, and it's a turn-based, it's not a realistic military shooter, but it's like a turn-based war type game. And they felt at the time it would be insensitive to release it. Apparently, the war's over because it's time to release it now. So they
Call of Duty didn't give a shit. They just went, "Here's our next instalment. Off you go," and everyone went, "Yep, thank you."
No. I mean, there was a time last year when it just started. I can see why you might have a different outlet, but the way they set their stall out was it'd be insensitive to release it whilst this is going on, and now it's like, well, it's still happening, but we kind of need to recoup some money here, so we're going to chuck it out. And
the morals at some point go out the window.
Of course, yeah. Alan in the boardroom says you had a year off now. We need to just get that in there. So that's come out. That's in Hall's Grand Prix team. It's sitting on an 81. It's been up and down a little bit. It's been as high 80 and a high 70 and a low 80, but it's on 81 at the moment, which is lower than I was expecting. I thought this would be 85 plus, just because people seem to love the originals, and it's like, what can you do wrong really here? But 81's not bad, but I think Hall himself would have been thinking, well, I'm hoping for more out of it, especially because he had it last year and then had it again this year, and it's only ended up on that. But here's what the critics have got to say. We go to OpenCritic and just read the blurb that's provided on there for the most popular reviews as ranked by OpenCritic. So we've got Jada Griffin from IGN, 8 out of 10. Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, so awful name, is a great return for this long neglected series. While there isn't much variety in the game modes, depth comes from the number of variables you can adjust to make every match feel unique. So they're loving it in a way. Metro Boys, your favourite. Now, we know the Nintendo fans, though. I mean, I've called this out before. David Jenkins named this time, so the D-Man at the top of the tree. An excellent remake of one of the best strategy games of all time. That is accessible and... This is what I was saying. It's what I was expecting more of to see. Best of all time. Wow, here's the modern version. That is accessible and versatile as an action game, but has some of the most deceptively deep tactical combat ever seen in a console release. 9 out of 10. So that Nintendo fan tag ain't going anywhere soon, is it?
No, apparently not.
Not for old David. He always comes out for the Nintendo stuff, does Jenks?
Names himself
for that and then chucks it to the freelancers if it's anything he's not interested in. Unbelievable. And then we've got Josh Broadwell from Game Informer. Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp might not include much new material, but it presents a strong case that classic games don't always have to change to be relevant again. Sometimes they just need a second chance. 8.5 out of 10.
Wow.
Widely positive there. But obviously...
I mean, it has to be said as well, like an 81 and an average basically of an 8 out of 10 across the board ain't anything to be sniffed at. But as we always say, for that fantasy gaming league...
You kind of want more. You always want more. But for a general game, you're correct. That's pretty good. Hall has had another game come out. He's had a bit of a flurry here. Horizon Forbidden West, Burning Shores. Now, this was on the menu for me to just get on day one. But given that I came to the conclusion that playing two things at once wasn't working for me, I've put a pin in it. So this is the DLC for Horizon Forbidden West. I'm absolutely 100% going to play this at some point. But we're going to clear the runway first with Persona 5 Royal. We've got IGN coming in first. Simon Cardy. It's got an 80 score overall, I should say. I don't know if I said that. Anyway, a couple of poor boss battles aside, Burning Shores is a great new chapter with enough creative new bells and whistles to keep Horizon fans more than happy. 8 out of 10. So he's going on the bosses there. Be interesting to see what that is and whether that's just poor ability from the writer. You know, you have to query it sometimes, don't you? Have they just struggled and not read something, not read a tooltip or a tutorial, or not listened to? I've seen it. I've seen it. I've done it before. Struggled through something, and then someone says, "Well, didn't you hit the weak point on the?" You're like, no. Oh, well, it clearly says it, and then you go back and look at it, and you're like, "Yep, it did," but in the moment, I missed that. Still clawed itself an 8 out of 10, which is good. The Sixth Axis is next. It just says Tough Cub. I'm assuming they're using handles now. That's like a streamer name to me.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Ain't Simon Cardy, is it? Tough Cub.
Takes away the credibility as well, I'd say.
Well, this is OpenCritic. Listing it as their most popular. Anyway, top critic as well. Burning Shores is exactly what you'd expect, with even more solid Horizon gameplay wrapped around a story that initially seems quite frivolous, but soon becomes very dark and uncomfortable. If you loved Horizon Forbidden West, you will love this too. 8 out of 10.
I mean, that's probably what you'd expect, right?
You'd hope so. Alvaro Alonso, Hobby Consolales. So this must be translated from Spanish. It is. So I don't know how this will read. Sometimes the auto translation is not great. Burning Shores is a great expansion that you will love if you liked Horizon Forbidden West, and serves as a preview of what they are capable of doing in Guerrilla Games when they work exclusively for PS5. After this, we are even more eager to know what the future holds for Aloy. That's a good little summary there from Alvaro, because it's important to note this is for PS5 only, this DLC. Which is not common. Usually when you do a DLC pack, you go, right, get that on every platform the original's on so we can maximise results. But Guerrilla have said, let us try this. There's some things we want to do that we feel we won't be able to do if we've got to scope the PS4 version in. And Alvaro's saying it's a good preview. That's exciting to hear from me. And it's an interesting choice, though, don't you think, to do that?
Yeah, I don't know if it does seem a bit odd, doesn't it? If you're going to do the original game, you feel like you should do the DLC as well.
Yeah.
But as you say, it's it's easy for me to say because I've got a PS5. But it's like you want them to be making the most out of what you've paid for, and we've long said that you feel like they're not doing that when they're catering for the older consoles, and we definitely feel like that when they're catering for that bloody Series S. But yeah, long may that continue, I think.
Yeah.
Which is a weird position for us to take because we should be there for all gamers.
No.
Irrespective.
No. But fucking get one now. It's there. You can get them.
Mate, Pete, it's cost of living crisis. You got to...
They're all down the pub still. I've seen them Fridays and Saturdays.
This is what blows my mind, right? Is that we go cost of living crisis. People can't afford anything. I went down to a car dealership the other day just to have a little look around. And I was chatting to some guy outside. He went, "Oh, I wouldn't come in. It's Ram today." I was like, "Cost of living crisis. How's everyone buying a new car?" And he went, "No, it's all finance, isn't it?" I was like, "Pack that in.
Yeah.
Can't afford bloody eating bills, but we're buying cars. What are we doing?"
I could do with a new car.
It's a problem.
But it's a shit market at the moment. It's meant to be expensive. I don't know what's going on.
It is expensive.
Well, I don't want that.
No, neither do I. You go, what do you do? Yeah.
Just either don't get one or get one, I guess. Take the plunge.
That's the rule.
And deal with it. Anyway, Burning Shores, I'm looking forward to playing that. And I'm interested to see if they've done what they have done with the PS5 that perhaps they couldn't do with the PS4 in scope.
Yeah. It's an interesting observation going back to it because you think, well, as you say, what have you noticed there that you go, they wouldn't have done that if that was PS4? That's a really tricky thing, I think, to identify.
There's always a chance that in 8 months' time they go, and here's a PS4 version of it, and you go, well, they just ran out of time. They just did the PS5 one first, and then spent the rest of the time doing that. And in which case,
80% have already got it on PS5, so we don't need to do that. So maybe it's more of a, nobody's bloody got it, so why bother?
Yeah. But be interested to see what happens there. I'll definitely jump into it. Hopefully this year. I mean, if I don't get to it this year, then I've done something badly wrong with my scheduling. That's all I'll say. 16 quid, like, it's a pretty reasonable price.
Yeah.
And by the time I get round to it, it probably would have been on sale at least once, so I may well have snatched it up then. So looking forward to that. We'll then move on to Dead Island 2. So this is in Biff's Grand Prix team.
Yeah.
Long plagued game. This has been in development for like a decade. It's been rebooted. I think it's been given to 3 different development teams. And at some point, someone in the boardroom should have just said, let's get rid of this. What are we doing? I mean, Dead Island, the original, whilst it was interesting, in my opinion, I played a good portion of it, was sort of like a prototype for what Dying Light became. Because Dead Island originally was developed by Techland, who then went and did Dying Light on their own. Yeah. This Dead Island is not developed by Techland. It's developed by... Dead Island 2 is not developed by Techland. It's developed by Dam Buster Studios. But it's been, as I said, it's been passed around like no one wants it. And it's done by a completely different team. I didn't realise there was any cachet left in Dead Island, to be honest. I was surprised to see this still going. But to be fair, they got it out. And it's sitting on a 75, which... is no real disgrace. It's not ideal on a fantasy gaming term. We always say 80 is the sort of watermark you want to aim for, but a 75 game is still good. It's clearly going to come with probably some issues that people have found, but we'll look through a couple of the reviews now. We've got Travis Northup, from IGN, our mate from the Hogwarts game. So he's back on it again. Dead Island 2 is a hilarious gore fest with competent a competent zombie slaying adventure, but lacks creativity outside its great sense of humour. 7 out of 10. So last time we saw Travis, he was handing out 9s to Hogwarts, and he's dropped 2 off this.
I mean,
could you play this game? Because it's not a horror game as such, but it has got Scrabblers in it.
I mean, I largely just stay away from Scrabblers just because it's just the best approach.
General rule.
I think with stuff like this, like even when you take like Left 4 Dead 2 and stuff, like I can play it and would play it with other people, but it's not something that I'd choose to pick up and just go, yeah, that's my bag. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people don't like zombie tropes at all. They're just bored of zombies.
A little bit. I mean, they've been done to death, right? I think the one thing that Resident Evil did well is sort of move away from the zombie thing more to the Parasite style, like, because it gives it just more credence, credibility, and creativity. The 3 C's I've given it there.
Very good.
But I think people are a bit bored of it. I mean, it's been around for a while, and I think it's been done to death in terms of TV series, films, and games. It's like, what do you do new? I think that's how do you keep it fresh? I think that's the trouble with it. Is trying to keep it interesting for people. But there's obviously still a market for it, and as we say, like a 7.5 out of 10 overall isn't a disgrace.
No, it is not a disgrace at all. Then we've got Lewis Parker from PC Gamer. Dead Island 2 is hampered by dull design choices, repetitive combat, and a painfully weak story. Its only saving grace being its great performance on PC, and that is something you don't hear that often these days. There's been lots of problems with PC ports. You know, for the last 18 months I've seen it. It just really is. Even The Last of Us Part 1. They've wheeled that out shite on PC. It's like, what are you... Why?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point.
But at least these guys, Dan Buster Studios, got it right. But Lewis Parker is still giving it a 55 out of 100, so he's cracked on it.
Subpar, he's saying.
Beggars can be choosers. He wants the great PC performance, but then won't give the game the credit.
I mean, you'd argue that performance you shouldn't get a mark for good performance. Like, good performance should be
it should be a given.
The baseline. Yeah. So you'd probably say arguably he's done the right thing.
Yeah,
he said, I ain't giving you extra points for that.
No.
Like,
he's mentioned it just because it seems like that's now a fucking rarity that it does perform well on PC, but then he's still appropriately marked down the game on its quality.
Yeah. So it's probably fair.
Yeah, fair enough. Well done, Lewis. Turn me around there. And then Metro are back, but it's not Dave. It's Adam Starkey, so a new named... Yeah, maybe a youngster coming into the mix here.
New blood.
New blood being put in. We'll see if he returns. A surprisingly lean and mean sequel which amplifies the bloody thrills of the original in its impressive presentation and flexible mechanics. Through its impressive presentation and flexible mechanics. 7 out of 10. That read more positively than the actual score suggested there. But like I've said with those guys, they do tend to go on the lower end unless it's like Nintendo stuff that's involved. So my main question about Dead Island 2 is it's called Dead Island 2. Yeah. It's set in Los Angeles. That ain't an island as far as my geographic knowledge goes.
It's certainly not.
What are we doing?
Yeah. They've taken some I'd call that a creative liberty.
Now I believe you can get to San Francisco in it, which I believe is more... That's an island in my eyes, I think. It's got that big red bridge.
Is it?
Well,
maybe it is.
Well, let the Americans correct us. Someone will come along and do it. But all I know is a big red bridge that goes out to that.
Let me Google quickly.
You goggle it and we'll see. But
the first question has to be, is Los Angeles... First thing that comes up is Los Angeles safe?
No, I'd say.
Is Los Angeles... Right, I'll put, is Los Angeles an?
Yeah.
And the first option is an island.
Yeah.
So it's been asked before. I mean, it's not definitive.
I'm just going to look at a map, and if it ain't, it don't look like
I was expecting a yes or a no, to be honest, and it's not.
Well, that's where you've got to get ChatGPT up.
Yeah.
You've got to get in the habit of using that Bing, getting that Skynet on involved, because I'll ask Skynet now. Whilst we fumble
see
around.
what it says. Yeah. I'm just so Los Angeles ain't an island. I'm telling you that much for free. I'm looking at the map, and it certainly is not.
No.
You've got Catalina Island, which is an essential fish habitat, off the coast of Long Beach and Huntington Beach. You got Santa Cruz Island, Santa Rosa Island.
Skynet says no. This is what Skynet says. No, Los Angeles is not an island. It is a city located in Southern California, United States. I knew that bit. However, there are several islands off the coast of Los Angeles, such as Santa Catalina's Island and the Channel.
Yeah.
They've stolen the Channel Islands off us.
Well, I mean, San Francisco, just for additional clarity, is not an island.
Oh.
You can, so it's like a little...
what Skynet says.
So it's like the equivalent of trying to... So imagine if they had a bridge from Essex to Kent. Well, they do. Ignore that. Imagine if they had a bridge
right
from Southend over to Kent. That's like the equivalent of the San Fran bridge. So you can get to it
through other means. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Right, okay. Here we go. Skynet says no. San Francisco is not an island, but a city located on the west coast of the United States. It is located in the northernmost tip of San Francisco Peninsula. What is that word?
Peninsula.
Peninsula. You don't care what it means. And includes significant stretches of the Pacific Ocean and San Francisco Bay within its boundaries. So, in any case, Dead Island 2, incorrect. Whatever way you look at it, I'm glad that I got to the end of the San Francisco one, because I always assumed it was just this fucking island that you got on by a big red bridge. But
no, so I mean, if you haven't been there and you've seen the bridge, you'd assume that you need to get. Understandably. And just for additional clarity, you have to go north from Los Angeles up. I mean, it looks like it's like Interstate 5, it's called, or something, and you go all the way up to San Jose.
That's where I like San Jose, because they've got the San Jose Sharks, the ice hockey team. So
did not expect that.
That's my. I don't want to go to San Francisco. If you put into Google San Francisco poo map, there's like a tracker where it shows where people are shit in the streets there.
Apparently, we digress, but apparently the homeless problem and the crime and everything is just awful there.
It's fortunate
again, if you've got any listeners, then please feel free to clarify, because we couldn't be further away.
No, I don't plan on visiting anytime soon. So please do get in touch if that's either incorrect or correct. I'd be happy to know about that. But Dead Island, which isn't Dead Island 2, which isn't set on an island, gets a 75 out of 100 for
Nobody's
Mr.
brought
Biff.
that up, though, in the review, which is concerning.
They need to.
So this is where we can add additional value to this process, is by pointing out the obvious.
Yes, absolutely. Final game to run through, Minecraft Legends. Big Phil churning out the first party gold, they're saying. Sitting on a 70.
I had this at some point. I don't know,
you may have been glad to not have it anymore, because it's a 73.
Yeah.
Now, of all the games that we've just glanced at the reviews for, Advance Wars, Burning Shores, Dead Island 2, Minecraft Legends, I would not have expected to be the lowest rated one out of those four. Yeah. So I was a bit surprised to see this. And once again, this isn't a big tentpole release for Xbox. It will probably perform very well because kids will want to play this and, whatever. But critically, once again, it's another release that's not perhaps up to snuff, and let's maybe find out and delve into why that might be. We've got Lauren Morton from PC Games, so they're back at it again. An action strategy spin-off that disappoints both genres and misses Minecraft's magic. 50 out of 100.
Yeah.
Short and to the point. Lauren not happy. Justin Corellis from IGN. Minecraft Legends is an engaging strategy game that capably combines established Minecraft world with a streamlined RTS structure. Couldn't be more opposite to what Lauren just said.
It made me laugh.
But it's still only got itself a 7 out of 10, so it hasn't. He's used the word capably, so he hasn't said it's like stunningly fused the two. He said it's capable, and perhaps he weren't too bored.
I mean, if you got that in your end of year review at work, and he's capable, you'd go, well, that's. I mean,
I'm going to get sacked. That'll do, but perhaps not ideal. And then Metro are back again, Metro Game Central, and this time it is just Game Central, so the unnamed intern that's there lurking. A failed attempt to turn Minecraft into a real-time strategy game that goes out of its way to be as shallow as possible and is made worse by fiddly controls and terrible AI. 5 out of 10.
I mean, the AI, you'd have to say, in any Minecraft game has never been the top of
the agenda, is it?
Yeah.
No, but that's I was surprised. I thought that's a shoe-in for an 80-odd, like Minecraft and fusing it, but like I said, it's not a majorly important release for Xbox, but again, just when it comes to the end of year averages, that won't do their games any favours. And
hopefully they leave it alone now. I've always been a bit disappointed. They've even when you go back to the Telltale Minecraft story they did, and they've tried to do different things with it, but ultimately the core of its success was always the building, like the ability to literally build anything. The story and the narrative and the characters was always like never a thing. So they've added this layer to it and tried to build upon it, and it's without success in my view. So I kind of hope they just stop fucking about with this now.
and just go back.
Do you not think though? Like I mean, it's always difficult to sort of go, I don't need to do anything, because they could have a masterpiece, but I just want them to leave Minecraft as it is. Yeah.
I mean, it's not going anywhere. I mean, I was reading the other day that it was like the top 5 most engagement on games or whatnot, and the usual suspects were like Fortnite, Call of Duty, Roblox was another one, but Minecraft was in there as well. And the thought popped into my head. It was like, 2 out of those 4 are going to end up under Phil's leadership at some point. He's going to have Minecraft, and he's going to have Call of Duty if things go his way. That'll be useful to have that in there. But Minecraft's still going. I think it's just one of those things that generally, I say generally because I think there will be adults that play it, but it's kids.
The audience has shifted. Like my son's playing it, and he's been playing it since he was about 3.5.
Yeah,
like on his tablet, and you think it's amazing to me how that shifted from when we used to play it, maybe 10 years ago in our 20s, to now being a thing for largely a younger audience. In the same way that Fortnite shifted to become more of a child-friendly game. So you think just because it's not reviewing well and it doesn't appeal to me and you, there is still a significant audience that will play, buy, and enjoy it. And that's still surprising. Like, I go around to see my niece and nephew, and they tell me about how they're beating the Ender Dragon. And I'm sort of sitting there thinking, I did that. And I was like,
it weren't easy.
It weren't easy. And I was in my 20s when I did it. So how are you doing it? on an iPad? What's going on?
Got to do that Wither or whatever it is. That's the real hard one I've heard. But no, Minecraft will trudge on. And again, I think they'll continue these little spin-off tries because, Minecraft probably makes so much money on its own that it's kind of like, why not try a different genre? But obviously, this one hasn't landed in the top echelon, but I'm sure there's fun for people to be had if it's something that might interest them. Well, that leaves the Fantasy Gamer League and the Grand Prix like this. Biff is still in the lead. He's got 7 games out already.
Nearly done it.
He's nearly finished and can put feet up soon. And he's sitting on 533 points, an average of 76 though. So he's not building a.
And he's out of it, in my view.
Well, you say that, but then look at the rest of them.
I know.
You've got Paper, Salmon, and Hall in that order next, all on 5 games, all with averages from 78, 79, 78. So they're not blowing Biff away with 80 plus games and whatnot. They're all sitting in the region of 390 to 380 odd points. So even if they were to get on par with Biff and they continue with that average, they're only going to be a few points above him. The outlier is Adcock. He's only got 3 games out, which is obviously a concern because he runs out of steam quite quickly in this competition. So he needs to be in the Biff seat really, but it's almost done for him already. But he's got an average of 84, and he's sitting on 248 of his 3 games. So he's the outlier. If he can continue that, he'll win handedly at this rate. We know with Adcock that whether he'll just forget about it and then the last transfer window panic.
I call him.
Yeah, and he'll just blow it in with some game that I'm not even sure will exist. So that's a concern for him. And then we've got Adkins still hasn't had a game released.
It's unbelievable, really. Nothing in the first third of the year.
No, incredible.
Quarter
really.
Blower.
Wow, almost. It will be at the end of this month.
Yeah. I was thinking that, and I was like, but April 4 into 12. First third. That means everything 10 games in the second, and we know that December is a write-off.
Yeah.
So he's got to get everything out between May and November in 6 months.
Yeah.
Interesting.
His first game will be that Tears of the Kingdom, so that'll his average will probably go to 98 immediately.
That's an absolute banker.
Yeah.
But interesting. Has he ever won it?
No.
Interesting.
He should have done, but he hasn't. He's never won it. It's a
Didn't
chance
think
for him. Biff's setting the pace with mid-70s as averages. The door's open for someone just to walk through it, really.
What was it that he chuffed it on that's really hurt him? There's one that really hurt him, wasn't there? That was in the 60s or something somewhere, if I remember rightly.
What, last year? Or?
No, this year, Biff and his average.
Oh, yeah, he got a Deliver Us Mars, which got a 67.
That's it,
That has not helped him. But he's got Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Street Fighter 6... And then he's got this weird one, Only Road to be the Mightiest, which will be another 60-odd if he's not careful. So, mixed bag for him. But that's the score on the doors. The championship game is sort of stalled lately. There's not really a lot going on between you and Parky. It's all very much holding pattern. But it will kick off starting soon because we've got Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Zelda for you coming.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 16 in June and whatnot. And then Parky will have Diablo in June. Don't know when Hollow Knight's due. Could come at any time, and then that's it that I know of. But we'll catch everyone up when those scores arrive. Well, that'll do for this segment of the podcast. We will transition out. I'm going to put in Biff's chat with me about VR, about the Meta Quest and Walking Dead Saints and Sinners that he played, that he really seemed to be bigging up in the chat. So we'll see whether that translated into a full game experience and how much he enjoyed it by the time he got to the end of it. But it's a VR heavy conversation. I think I mentioned this last week. Biff's audio is awful, so I apologise in advance for that. I almost threw it away, but I thought I'd feel bad on Biff giving up his time and then just to throw it in the bin. But I will have to buy him some sort of wireless headset, I think.
It's unbelievable. It really is. We're at this point where we've been doing this for so long, and audio is still
it's got worse
diabolical
by some people.
Yeah, I still remember Hall when he used to get his wired headset, and he used to have like his mic on there, and he'd just be sitting there like fucking about with it. And
Adcock used to be bad as well. He's used to scratching his beard.
Yeah,
you could hear that squabbling, and I was like, for goodness sake. So next time I'll have to get Biff some sort of wireless headset to use, but he's there to talk about that. We're actually off next week because it'll be bank holiday. And we got an extra one this year.
We got 2, so this is going to be a blower for the viewers.
No, I like it. I need more time off.
So so Monday we'll be here. Next Monday is a bank holiday. That's the May Day bank holiday. And then the week after is another bank holiday for the coronation of the King.
So we get 2 weeks off?
Yeah.
And then we'll have one at the end of May as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, and then we've got one on the 29th of May as well, which is a spring bank holiday. So, I mean, May is a stinker for the fans.
Yes. I love it. More time off. Anyway, I'll leave you in the hands of myself and Biff. Apologies for the audio, but you'll be able to make out what that clown is saying. Bit of Meta Quest and The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. We will see you on the other side. Here we are then, back with some game and hardware impressions to close out this edition of Idle Game Chat. Surprise guest turning up. He only turns up probably once every 6 months. It's the former FGL champion and former Grand Prix winner, Mark Smith Biff. How's it going?
Yeah, mate, not bad. Keeping it above the water just about, so yeah. Yourself?
Yep, can't complain too much. Weather's just starting to turn, so should be warm. It's getting hot in this office, so that's somewhat annoying. But then, is it better than being an ice cube? I don't know. Don't know, really. Now, we're here to talk to you about a couple of things. It's to do with VR, virtual reality. Long-time listeners will remember that you were an advocate of the PSVR for about a week, and then soon fell off the bandwagon with that. But over the festive period, you snagged yourself a... Is it called a Meta Quest now? It's not an Oculus Quest, is it? They're called Meta Quest as far as I'm concerned. Okay. And I think they've released a newish Pro one. It's not that, it's just a stock Meta Quest 2 or whatever it is.
One,
the wireless VR headset from Meta, which is obviously known as Facebook in many circles. So here to give a little bit of an update on that and how you've been finding that, but also to fill us in on one particular game, The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, which actually has got some of the better reviews for a VR game, because there's some right old dross out there which can concern people. Anyway, I would like you, for those that are uninitiated or new to the show and don't really understand what's been happening, brief kind of recap of where you got to with PlayStation VR, because from my abridged version in my head, you went and saw it at EGX, got hands-on with it at EGX, was blown away by it, got it that Christmas that it come out, had it for a few years, and it eventually ended up getting traded and sold, so it obviously didn't have any staying power. But from your perspective, was VR all it was cracked up to be? Because you sold the headset in the end, and now 5 years later we're sitting here with another one.
Yeah, so I quite like VR. I think it's quite good. It's something a bit different. Strangely enough, I actually think it's, even though it's going to sound really counterintuitive, it's quite a social thing. Like when people are around,
right? Yeah,
I sort of got the VR headset out, and then everyone had a go at it, and it was, you'd watch someone play it, watch someone get scared, da 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 da. And then when I was on my own, I found I didn't play it as much. Because it was just aggro. It just a hassle. I was like, I've got to put the fucking thing on and then play the game. And then it got quite hot, especially in the winter. If you've got the heating on, like, you know, some other family members might be cold, but you're not. And selfishly, you know, they won't have the heating off while you're playing VR. So
no, of course
I did find it a bit hot. Yeah, I found it a bit hot and clammy in places. I still think it was good, but it run pretty thin pretty quick, to be honest. There wasn't anything on it that you'd play that really sort of engrossed you into the game and made you sort of go back and play it, that story driven sort of stuff. It was more just showing off what the VR headset could do, and it was impressive, and I think everyone that come around and had a go at it, you had a go at it, and everyone was sort of impressed by it and thought it was pretty decent, but no one actually bought it, so I think it shows you it wasn't that decent.
No, it wasn't cheap back in the day either. As much as we rag on the PSVR 2 being expensive, the original PSVR wasn't far off that. When you got all the tracking camera that you needed to have and the move controllers, which were not essential, but for some games they were, but in general you would want those. Was the ag of setting that up also a factor? Because you had, if I remember correctly, you had a camera you had to have on top of the telly at all times, you know, to track your movement. The move controllers were these little fucking like sex toys or a lollipop, depending on the way you want to look at it. And then you had the cable, which was fine, but you also had a pass-through box that the headset plugged into, then that plugged into the TV. It always seemed like a rigmarole you get in. I always felt sorry. You'd say, "Was anyone want to go on VR?" And they'd say, "Yeah," and you sort of sigh. I could see your little head was getting stressed, thinking, "I've got to settle this up and then pack it away again." Was that also just an aggravating factor that you think, well, if I want to play this thing, I'm going to have to put all this crap in, rewire it all and get going, and hope that the tracking's stayed from last time because the camera might have moved?
Yeah, it was a bit of aggro. Like you say, there was a lot to it, and by the time we got it all out, it was like, right, if this goes away, don't say in half hour, oh, I actually fancy playing it again, because it fucking ain't coming back out again. Once it's gone away, it's gone away. But that was part of it. It was a lot of aggro. You had to sort of think. It just was hassle, basically. But once it was out, it weren't too bad. And then once everything was set up, it was pretty good. And sometimes I'd leave it sort of laying in the lounge because it was all set up. And then obviously Vic would moan and be like, put this shit away and you know, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, it was a bit of aggro to set up.
It's a good point, actually, because actually it had to be plugged into the console and a TV. So when we get onto the Meta Quests, which we'll get onto, that can go anywhere. So you're not restricted to taking up a lounge or a second room just to put VR on. You can sort of hide away and do it wherever if you wanted. Out in the garden, maybe, now it's not raining. That could be a little thing for you to do. Little neighbours looking at going, what's he doing? But what were some of the highlight of the games that you played on the PSVR? Like some of your favourites, or was there any? I mean, there was no Half-Life Alyx back then. It didn't come to PSVR. But was there anything that you thought, yeah, this is top draw?
So the best ones I played on PSVR, I think it was one called The Getaway. I think you had a go on that one, where it was like a gun game and you was in a car and you had to shoot out
London Heist, wasn't it?
the car. Yeah, London Heist, yeah. And it was like a gun game, and you was in a car and you had to shoot out the car. 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 And you had to shoot out the Yeah, that's it. I think, London Heist. Yeah,
The Getaway was like a open world game back in the day on the PS2.
Oh, right.
And there was a Getaway chasing it. Yeah, you're right. When you're in the car.
So that was one of them. There was also a Batman Arkham game where you would be in his house, like Bruce Wayne's house sort of thing, and I quite like that. That was quite good. You could use a grapple gun and things like that, and it'd whip you from place to place.
Yeah.
There was another one, I've forgotten what it was called now, and he was on an alien planet, and you actually had to put the move controllers into a rifle.
Yes.
And you actually held a rifle. That was pretty good, but it shortly went after I got that game, so I didn't play that for that long. It wasn't obviously that good because I only went for it once. And it was pretty bog standard, just something pop out and you shoot it sort of thing. But one of the problems with it as well was that because the wire was always attached to you, you never sort of really felt that into the game because you would sort of forget where you were and then be brought back to it. You turn your head and then you'd feel the pull on the back of your head of the wire, and it would sort of bring you back down to earth and think, oh, I'm on a VR headset sort of thing. And I remember doing that with when you had the rifle, you turn your head like that and it would always, I remember it just plugging away a little bit. It was a bit of annoyance. Yeah,
that is definitely something that I experienced when I had the Oculus Rift that plugged into the PC. And one of the solutions there was to turn round so that you're not facing the TV or the monitor, so that the cable's always just dangling straight back to where it's plugged in. But you'd obviously get spun round playing these games. It's funny when you take your headset off sometimes, you think, fuck me, how do I end up getting over here? But yeah, the cable I always felt was an annoyance on the Oculus. But the gun game was Farpoint, I think. So I remember you gave me a go at that and it had a little gun attachment with it. Did you ever suffer any sickness of sorts? Did any games turn your stomach? Or was there like a cap on, like, you play for because some people find it that they can play for an hour and then they start to feel a bit off and then they take it off and they start feeling better. But was you got iron guts, or was you sometimes turned upside down by some of the stuff on there? I remember Riggs done it to everyone almost, other than Logan. That mech game. Yeah.
What was that game?
Riggs, I think it was called. It was a demo that you had on the on some PlayStation. You was in you got into like this big like mech thing, almost like what Ripley gets into in Aliens, and you was running around on a fucking map. And I remember it just absolutely turning everyone's stomach. And then Logan, of all people, sat there and was like, "Nope, that's fine for me."
Nothing. Fast irons.
Yeah.
I remember that one did it, and there was another one where you was on. It was like a horror shooting game, and you was on a roller coaster, and you sat in one of the carts, and the cart went round the track. And
Until Dawn, wasn't it? It
was that it? Was it Until Dawn?
I think it was Until Dawn. Rush of Blood to the Head, the spin-off.
Yeah. That if you played that for more than 15 minutes, because everything's moving so fast, it was just like a sensory overload. Like, I remember feeling well rough, like hungover sort of rough. But yeah, it wasn't really like after an hour I felt sick, because most of the games I was playing weren't that long anyway. I mean, I think you could complete the whole of Batman in sort of not that long, and that London Heist again wasn't that long a game. And Farpoint, it was more that you just get bored and think, oh fuck this, I'm going to just turn this off after like 45 minutes sort of thing. I don't think I ever played it for more than like an hour and a half, so I never really got like fatigue from it sort of thing. But just those couple of games that made me feel rough with the motion sickness.
That's fair enough. So eventually we get to the stage where it's sold and it's got rid of the PlayStation VR. And then at that point, I'm sort of sitting there going, well, that's it now for Biff's VR experiment. The promise of virtual reality did not deliver for him. He probably had a bit of fun with it, but had to sell it in the end because he weren't getting much use out of it. And then, little beknown to me, suddenly this Meta Quest is rocking up on doorsteps and being asked for. It's not just a random present. It's been put on some sort of list, and it's come through as a festive gift. What made you go back to this world? Because I assumed the door was completely closed after PlayStation VR.
I mean, basically, what I should also... One, it helps that if you don't pay for it yourself sort of thing. So I didn't pay... The first PlayStation VR, I didn't pay for that. Vic bought me that. My missus bought me that as a Christmas present.
Yeah.
And the Meta Quest.
Did you get the profits when you sold it? That went straight in your back pocket,
did
it?
Yeah, I think I bought an Xbox for that, so you don't ever forget that. But I was like asked what do I want for Christmas, and I was thinking, what do I want? No. And I saw the Saints and Sinners game, and I'd also seen a Star Wars game, and my little brother, like his missus' brother, basically, he had it, and he brought it over and just said, "Oh, have a go on it for 15 minutes." So I played a few bits of it, and I was well impressed, really, really impressed with it. So I was like, "Oh, if I can sort of get one for Christmas and have to pay for it, it'd be good." So that's basically what happened. I didn't really know what I wanted for Christmas, and Vic asked me, and I thought that would do, and I got one of those basically.
Get myself a Quest 2 or whatever the model is. Excellent. So let's get on to the Quest itself. One of the main features of this is that it's completely wireless. You can plug it into a PC, and it allows you to play something like Half-Life Alyx and a couple of others. But generally, a lot of the stuff plays without any other assistance. So it's battery powered, and you've got some nice controls this time. Not those weird little bobble things. They're like these little Meta touch controllers, which are nice. How liberating is it to not have that wire just anywhere to deal with? Like not having to feel it, not having to plug it in. You simply just pop the headset on, providing it's charged, and we'll get into that as well. And then you're off.
It's totally different. Like you lose yourself within seconds. You totally forget where you are. Like when you say, sometimes you'd turn around and you'd lose where you were in a room. You do that within 10 seconds. If someone, it's just incredible. Like not having the wire makes such a massive difference. It makes it a much more immersive experience. Just not being because it's not there, you can then sort of be more involved in the game a little bit more. You're not like, if you wanted to jump around, you can, because you think, well, there's nothing, I'm not going to pull the TV off the wall sort of thing.
No. How is the charging on it? Because obviously one of the things people say is, well, you can only play it for 15 minutes, then the charge goes. But is that the case? Do you get a good couple of hours out of it? How often have you got to charge this thing?
If you play it for an hour and a half, 2 hours, it'll die.
Does it give you a warning, or does it just shut off?
It does give you a warning.
Right.
I think it does give you a warning, but it will just it will say 15%, and then 10 minutes later it's off, sort of thing.
Okay, so you better go. And once the first warning comes, you start wrapping it up.
So the battery life isn't the best. Saying that, I one of the things I don't know if you want me to go into this, but one of the things I don't like about the headset is the wrap. It's really tight. I found it really,
and you've got
really
a tiny
horrible.
head.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine something with a normal head.
Fucking hell.
Absolute killer. But it was really tight, really uncomfortable, and after a while it was like wearing a really tight sweatband. It was giving me like pressure headaches. So I went online and bought a much more comfortable headset, and it's like a proper metal one. Yeah. But you can pay a little bit extra, and it comes with an extra battery pack. And they sent me the wrong one, and they sent me one with an extra battery pack on the end. Oh. For no extra charge. So I had a right touch. And the battery's phenomenal now. Like when you check it, I play for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it gives you two battery readings. It gives you the headset and the actual visor. Yeah. Battery in two different things, and I've never even gone into the visor. Like I have it on for 2 hours with the headset. It doesn't even touch the other battery. That's how good that is. So I would recommend, if anyone gets one, get the more comfortable headset with the better battery, and you don't have to worry about charging it then.
How much would that cost? They didn't send you the upgraded one, like if you wanted to buy it legit.
I want to say 160, but I'm not 100%. You might need to double check that, I'm afraid. I want to, because I bought it from CEX second hand. So it was dirt cheap, and it looked like brand new, so I was well chuffed for that. But I think brand new from the MetaQuest website is about 160 quid.
Cool. So it can be expensive if you want to start upgrading this thing. Anything else you don't like whilst you're on the negative fault train?
Once I turned it on, I had it about a week, and I turned it on, and it just was, the whole screen was black, and it just said, it just like an error message come up, and I just couldn't do anything with it at all, and just nothing worked. And I basically went online and it said, it needs a whole reset, and I had to, just because you obviously have to set up a Meta account, log that to your phone links to the thing, you can obviously buy things on the app. I had to reset the whole lot. The whole thing had to be shut down, restarted again, so I lost all my memory, everything I'd set up, all my sort of settings, surroundings, everything had to be reset. Cool. And someone said, once you get that, I saw online in a forum that it said, once you get that once, if you can get it 2-3 times, you might have to send the headset back, but touch wood, it's never happened again. It was just that first week I had to reset the whole thing.
Did you lose any game progress with that? Did that go as well? Everything
went. Yeah.
So that is somewhat of a frustration.
Yeah.
When stuff like that happens with the room scaling, because you kind of, at least on the Oculus Rift, I'd put it on and then it would say, "Oh, look round and draw," because it would have a camera, like a pass-through camera that looks forward, so you can see your surroundings, and you draw out basically where you wanted to stay in a safe zone, and then if in game you got near the edges, a little red like grid would come up, and you'd be like, "Oh, I'm near a wall here, I better step back." That was because, and I was in a fixed room all the time. And it didn't have any camera assistance. It was inside-out tracking like the Quest. But does that tend, if you're playing in the same room each time, does it kind of remember accurately how your room's set up, or is that something you have to kind of fiddle around with every couple of times you put it on?
So no, it's exactly the same. So you draw around the room, and then it will, when you get close to the walls or close to anything, it goes red to show you're close. But something I've been really impressed with, I play it downstairs in the lounge, upstairs in a spare room, and it remembers when I'm in each room, and it remembers. It knows, yeah. And then also sometimes when you're in the room, if like something's moved, it will come up and flash up, say, "Do you know the room isn't clear?" sort of thing.
So you can go and moan at Vic and say, "You fucking left that chair out. I've noticed it now." The Meta's lost you in the Quest.
Yeah, basically something's moved. It will tell you that the setup that it was before is not the same as what it was. It's really impressive.
Oh, that's quite clever. It's even got multiple rooms, because I guess...
Yeah, I don't know how many rooms it remembers, but it just upstairs and downstairs, and it knows the difference. It knows what room I'm in, which I quite like.
Yeah, because I don't think that would have happened with the Oculus, because it would assume that I'm always in the same room, because it's a wired device, whereas they've obviously thought ahead of this and think, well, people might use this in other spaces during their room. It's kind of the advantage of it, so... That's really smart and clever. The Oculus Rift never used to fucking remember either. It used to drive me nutty. Every 3 times I put it on, it'd go, "Can you now redo your play area?" I'm like, why? Nothing's changed. This room stays completely still, but that's me moaning again about the Quest. Anything else about the hardware itself that's impressed you or not impressed you? I assume the controllers are light years above the little bobble stick PlayStation Move things. I don't know how much they add to the games, or if they've got finger tracking or anything like that on them.
They're unreal how good they are.
Yeah.
So when you play like the Saints and Sinners Walking Dead, you have like 2 fingers at the bottom of the triggers, 2 fingers on the top, and then you have your thumb, which you use controllers and the buttons.
Yeah.
And if you take your hands like that, he will open his hands like that.
Yeah.
And then if you do the 2 bottom ones, he'll use his 2 bottom ones. And you can make a fist. You can do thumbs up, point like that, and yeah, exactly.
Middle finger.
I don't even do the middle finger, but you can, it's
give it all that. Doing a wanker sign for the audio people.
It is incredible how it just knows that even if you're not touching the button, even if it's just loosely on the button, it will know what's what. Something else that's really good, I don't know if your Oculus had this, but it has a camera in the front, so if you double tap the headset, it will just take you so you can see where you are.
That's it, yeah.
Obviously the PSV, I never had that, and that was also always a frustration, because you'd lose yourself and you just take the headset off. To reset yourself with this, you just double tap it.
Go and answer the door as well, can't you, if that rings? Go and collect your Amazon delivery. Have you done that yet?
Yeah. No, I just thought I can't be that guy. But the thing is, because you're all hot and sweaty, you take it off and you've got like a big red line around your face anyway. So if you answer the door, some geezers go, "What the fuck have you been doing? You've been snorkeling or something?" But yeah.
Might have a pool in the back garden. Garrison privilege and all. Anyway. Anything else about the hardware of the Quest that you want to mention, either good or bad, that we haven't touched upon?
No, not really. I think that, like I say, the handsets really do add to it. They're really good. Amazing battery life on the handsets as well. There's got, I think it's 2 AA batteries in. They've been the same AA batteries I've had since I've had it, and I must have played it for I don't know, 30, 40 hours. They're still going strong. So yeah, that's pretty handy.
Yeah, that is the advantage of having double, because I have the same, because obviously you've got a PS5, that DualSense will last, it lasts about 8 hours with me. People keep saying, it only lasts an hour, but I've never had it die that quickly. But I put the Xbox controller, that's powered by AA batteries only, and that lasts 30, 40 hours. Like, it really does.
Yeah.
But then you're probably killing the environment by throwing all those batteries away in the bin, so swings and roundabouts. Sorry, I cut you off there. You're about to go somewhere else.
Yeah, so obviously that's really good. I forgot what I was going to say now. It's gone from my head.
Happens, doesn't it?
No, it's gone. Yeah.
Well, hardware's good. If it pops on you, we can come back to it. I wanted to anchor most of the conversation left around one particular game that you've been playing. 'Cause it's the one game that you've been telling me about and been clearly impressed with. So I wanted to touch upon this so we can get some insight into what this is. And it's The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. Now, this is the first one. There's actually a chapter 2 which has recently come out. And people might see this and say, well, if that's chapter 2, the first one must be about a 5-hour chapter. Like they'll assume it's going to be short episodic titles, but I don't think that's the case here. Skydance Interactive and Skybound Entertainment, they actually own the rights to The Walking Dead as a series and other media types. But this is a few years old, this one. Nonetheless, you've been talking this one up. Tell me why this is, from my perspective, seems to have resonated with you, because it seems to be the one game that you've been chatting about and playing the longest as well. So, Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, talk to me.
Yeah, so it's just really incredible. Basically, graphically, obviously not the best thing in the world. It's very similar to the sort of what's the Walking Dead sort of games that you play, the Telltale ones.
Yeah.
Graphically, it's like that, sort of quite cartoonish.
Okay, yeah.
But it doesn't really matter, because once you're in it, you're so involved, and the story's pretty good. I must admit, I'll just like let you know, because I've had a new baby recently. I had to take my headset off and then have to go and deal with the baby, put the headset back on. So you sort of lose the story a little bit, and I had to skip a few little bits. But you do become quite involved with some of the characters. Some people you like, some people that don't like, different factions, things like this. And it's just it's sort of really intuitive as well. Like, you think, I wonder if I can do that, and the game doesn't tell you. And you think, for instance, if like a zombie's walking towards you,
Yeah.
and I was sort of stabbing them with a screwdriver, and I was like, oh, I'm really struggling to get the screwdriver out. And I thought, I wonder if I could grab its head, and then you can just grab its head and just go, and put it out in one go, rather than trying to wiggle it out. And it's like little bits like that. It's just really, it's fantastic. And it worries you as well how much enjoyment I got from stabbing things in the head. It sort of made me think, fucking hell, this is really weird. I don't know if it's just me, but there's something really satisfying about it, because you know it's obviously not real, but it feels so realistic when you're doing it, sort of thing. You lose your bearings so quick.
So is it mainly sort of melee combat, or is it mainly shooting, or is it a bit of a mix between the two, depending on, I guess, maybe ammo or guns you've got access to?
Yeah, so it depends sort of the situation that you're in more than anything. If you're fighting humans, 99% of it.
So it's not just zombies you're fighting; there'll be humans running around, right?
Yeah. Like I say, there's different factions. The zombies are part of it, but you're sort of siding with either one side or another side, and certain characters within those sides. And obviously, when you fight the humans, 99% of it is gunplay. There's also sort of grenades, explosives, things like that can be thrown. There's sort of knives, swords, cleavers.
Can you throw
samurais.
knives?
You can do, but that was the worst thing about the game. I really struggled to do it. And one thing you get with the handsets, you get these little wraps you tie around your wrists, and I was like, I'm not using those. And then I fucking threw one across the room, and I was like, right, those wraps are going on, because you just sort of lose yourself so quickly. It's ridiculous.
That's nice. So would you describe it as a horror game or an action game, or is it sort of tread the line between the two? Like, does it shit you up a few times throughout the game?
I would say it's more action. It's not scary, but there will be times where you'll hear something and you'll go, whoa, what's that? And as you turn around, it fucking comes out. And it's not that it's trying to make you jump. It's just that person was standing there and you didn't know they were there, basically. There's certain parts of it that are quite atmospheric. You walk into a house and you can hear things walking around, and you're like, fucking hell, there's something in here. And at the start of the game, you're sort of quite sparse. You haven't got a lot of weight. You might just have a screwdriver. That might be all you've got. Yeah. So it could be quite worrying. But as you go on, you've got the tools to deal with anything, basically.
Can you headbutt the zombies? That's a weird question, but could you grab them and chuck your head at them Do you think it'd work? Have you not tried it?
I've not tried. I'll be honest, I've not tried. I'd be frightened I'd head up the wall or something in a panic of flurry and then smash the whole headset up. But it wouldn't surprise me if you could do something like that. It's really, it's really good with things like that. You may well be able to. I'll have to have a look.
Yeah. So one thing that I always get tripped up on, or when I've played VR, is how movement is kind of done in first-person games. Some, you just have the little analog stick and you walk forwards, and that's how you do it. Others let you sort of teleport around, like you sort of point and sort of go and appear there. How does Saints and Sinners handle movement? Are you just got a little stick that you use as you would in a normal game, or can you just sort of teleport yourself around to move?
So it is a stick, and you walk around using the stick. You have like a stamina bar basically, and you can sprint, but the sprinting uses the stamina up, and then you can't then stab. So it makes you walk quite slowly, so that the feeling of motion sickness is basically removed. When you're sprinting, it's basically to get away from stuff. It's not to just traverse the land. It's just to get away when you need to. So yeah, you basically use a stick to walk around, but you're walking quite slowly, and it's sort of quite nice. You're at a nice pace. There's certain games that I've played where you move a stick and it's like sprinting across a room, and your brain can't keep up with it because the human body couldn't move that quickly, basically.
No. Lovely jubbly. I mean, it sounds like basically Zombie Killer Simulator. Like, it's about as close as you could get to doing it without doing it. Because all the other games, like the zombie games, you normally, like you can like stab them in the head, but you don't actually get hands on them. Whereas this, obviously, you get quite intimate with the zombies. I guess they do that on purpose so that they're a bit of a threat. And if you don't want to use your ammo on them, you got to let them get in and then drop a fucking screwdriver in their head. Can you lop off limbs with any? Is there any? You can.
Yeah. Different weapons do different things. So some are more for stabbing, some are more for like slicing. So if you get a cleaver, you can lop the head off, and then you can pick the head up and then throw the head at someone if you wanted to. It's insane.
I remember doing that in Manhunt. It's like that's an old Rockstar game, and I got this. I remember I never finished it, but it's like a stealth game, basically. And each level you have to clear out these horrible bastards, and you hide in the shadows. You pop out, and they had these really brutal executions. They actually got. I think the second one got censored because the executions were too much and they were a bit too brutal. Anyway, they got this. I remember I got this wire cutter once, and you could one of the payoffs was if you held the execution for a longer amount of time to do a more brutal execution. So I held it to the max once, and he fucking took this bloke's head off basically with the cheese cutter. And then you could pick up the head and throw it at like the other people around. They'd be like, "I just cut John's head off, a sick bastard." That always reminds me of that when everyone talks about heads being thrown around. But that's. Do you do it?
How old would you have been then?
Oh God, when was Manhunt out? That was like after GTA 3, but not much after. So,
Jesus.
Let's have a look. Manhunt game was released in 2003. So 15, 16?
That's not too bad.
Just of age to start going out there myself with cheese cutter and
just old enough to buy things like that.
Yeah, take people's heads off. But I always remember that. Any other comment on Saints and Sinners, either positive or negative? It sounds like I've heard good things about it across all the platforms, so I've no reason to doubt that this is if you're into the VR space, one that if you skipped thinking, oh, it's just going to be another TV tying shithouse, basically, like a lot of games can be when they're based on a property. It sounds like this is a good VR game first, and then it just happens to be set in the Walking Dead world. But any other comments or things you wanted to pass on it?
Well, if you like The Walking Dead, a lot of it is quite linked to The Walking Dead. I mean, there's certain zombies that you can. So basically, as you enter into a town, and as the time goes on, the longer you spend in the town, your watch will beep, and a bell will chime, like a church bell, and then more zombies will come. So you have to get in and out as quickly as possible. And some of the zombies have open wounds. So when you kill one, you can pick up their guts and then you can rub it on yourself.
Okay, yes.
Like the Walking Dead series, it hides you from the zombies, but only for a certain amount of time. Nice. So I quite like that. That was quite like a little throwback to the thing. A lot of it is how sort of... So you'll have like a right pocket and a left pocket, and you can put two small things in there. So a gun and a knife I would carry. You would have right shoulder, so you pull it, and that would be a double-handed weapon. So that could be a shotgun or a samurai sword or like a baseball bat, something like that.
Yeah.
And then on your left shoulder, you'd have a rucksack, and then you can put items into your rucksack. So there's just literally hundreds and hundreds of items, shoes, trainers, pictures, things like that. And then you take it back to your base and you can dismantle it. And you dismantle all the items to then create cleavers, guns, bullets, medicine, food, things like that. And it shows you that when you pick up an item, when you pick up a shoe, it will say, if you break this down, it gives you adhesive, wood.
Nice.
Things like that. So it's sort of like it makes you scavenge as well. So it's just, And the way that it's like you have a torch. So when you have your handset on, I'll try and do it so you can see. If you grab that part of your chest, you'll hold a torch, and then if you put your hand in your right pocket, you can pull a gun, so you can have a torch and a gun at the same time.
So it's like context sensitive, depending on where you put your hands and grab, it'll pull the torch out if it's on your chest. If it's down by your hip, it'll pull your gun out, and you can sort of... Don't know what
and like I say, with the shoulder, you do that, and it will pull out a double-handed weapon.
Lean
and then
back.
you also have on your right chest, that's your book, and that will give you a map and your objective and any photos or any clues of anything you need to know. So it's just you're sort of walking around and it just feels like you're just, it's just really clever how they've done it. It's really intuitive and just really natural. Some of the weapons are better than others. Some are quite complicated. So that, like the shotgun, you just do like pump it. But there's one that's like a rifle, and you have to sort of pull the bolt back, flick it so the shell comes out, and then push the bolt down and flick it back. And when you've got 10 zombies coming towards you, that's a disaster. You don't want that thing round about.
No, but it's quite...
Also on the weapon as well, there's wear and tear. So,
okay.
Say if you have a pistol, the more you use it, it will jam, and then you have to grab the top of it to cock it back. And you sort of always wear what, as you pull your gun out, you think, how much life has this gun got left in it? And will I need a new one? So it's just really clever, cleverly done like that.
I like that. It's got quite a few game elements in it, like you mentioned about the crafting, and the manual kind of reloading is always interesting to do in VR because it kind of, you have to learn. You can't just press a button. You got to learn what the movements are, as you kind of would in that world. And weapon durability can be a pain, but I guess I think in certain scenarios like a zombie apocalypse or a horror game, they can bring another layer of tension there, which is what you're after. Can you replace the weapons or repair them, or once they're completely fucked, is that it? You dismantle them and hopefully you'll get a new one later on?
Yeah, so you can build certain weapons, and you'll need like the base of the gun. So if you want to build a pistol, you'll find like a pistol base, but it's useless. You can't use it, but you put it in your rucksack. You can't repair a weapon. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Oh, okay, right.
But you can build new ones, and as you get further onto the game, you build so much stock at your sort of base that and in your another thing that's really, really cool, in your base you'll have like a weapons rack, and then a medicine rack, and then all your weapons you've made are lined up, and then before you set out, I would go out and put weapons in my bag and medicine in my bag and like food in my bag, put my bag on, and then go out and do a level, and then replace the stock once I've been out. So it's quite a clever little system they have.
So if you took us, let's say we took a shotgun out off your rack and I'm going with that to this town, and then whilst you're out in the town, can you drop the weapon? I don't know if you can lose the weapon in some way, but would it, if you dropped it in the world, would it come back to the base of you still, or would you just lose that one and you'd have to craft it again?
Yeah, you'd have to craft it again. That's gone. It won't be there. It won't be there again. The rucksack will carry two big weapons.
Yes. Yeah.
So basically two double-handed weapons, but things like pistols, knives, things like that, you can store inside your rucksack, and then you can upgrade your rucksack to carry more items.
Nice.
So things like pistols and things like that, they're sort of throwaway, but when you see a good double-handed weapon, that's what you want to keep, sort of thing.
Nice. I like the gamification of it, because a lot of the VR games don't tend to have that level of depth anyway. They just don't. They sort of assume that the experience is enough, and you'll just shoot and stab and that'll be enough. But to have this other layer to it kind of makes it feel like a proper game, which I think is one of the things that people struggle with VR in general. It's hard to find those games that feel like a proper game as well as being in VR. There's lots of tech demos, aren't there, and like smaller experiences that. I mean, a lot of the Star Wars ones, for example, is just sort of like 2 hours long, and you just sit in a fighter pilot or whatever, and then that's the end of it, and it doesn't feel like a full game. Well, how many hours do you think you spent in this? Have you finished it?
Yeah, I finished the game.
Yeah.
The thing is that I don't know. It's hard to say. I would say probably 30 hours, maybe 25.
Bloody hell!
Hours. Yeah, and the thing is, I'm not saying the game is that long, but I just quite like wandering around and sort of faffing around and building the base up, and then collecting stuff and making sure I hadn't missed anything. And it's sort of quite enjoyable, doing it. So I wasn't really sort of in a rush to get the story finished. I was quite happy sort of pottering around, but in the background the story's going on, and there's sort of little side missions and things like that to keep you going.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really good. But even like we talked about the weapons there and the loading system, but even doing something like eating, like when you grab the food, you have to put it to your face. If you hurt yourself, you wrap the bandage around your arm like that using your controller, and just little bits like that. Like you say, it makes it more in depth, and it just healing yourself is quite fun. You know what I mean? It makes it, instead of just pushing a button and it just doing it automatically, you've got to think, is there anyone around me now? Like, you can't do it in combat sort of thing.
No.
So yeah.
Nice. Any negatives that you wanted to bring up before we go towards final thoughts?
There was a couple of times where there was one time I got stuck.
Right.
Like literally, I'd sort of, because you can hoist yourself up onto like build like boxes and things like that, and I fell down this bit, and I wasn't meant to be in. It wasn't meant to be in this part of the game, and I couldn't get out. I was just like, I don't know what to do now, and I could see like, the floor wasn't where the floor should be, and it just fucking lost itself.
See the fucking code in the game. What's going on here?
Yeah, basically, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, that happened a couple of times, but apart from that, not really. There's not really too many negatives with it. Like I said, only a couple of bits that I didn't like. Some of the weapons were really hard to use. The bow and arrow is fucking. If you can hit something with a bow and arrow in VR, well done, because I couldn't hit anything.
And that's significant, because you actually, when we did a little trip once, were top of the leaderboard on a bow and arrow challenge we did. So
yeah,
couldn't convert it to VR though.
No, apparently not.
Worthless.
Yeah, but what a little side note is you can use the arrows to stab them in the head, though. So you can
okay, so don't go to use.
And then shoot the arrow, yeah. So I still managed to get a little bit of use out of it. But yeah, some of the weapons were a little bit too complicated. But yeah,
if you shoot with the arrow and then they die from it, can you go and clip the arrow off their body and reuse it? Is that? Oh.
Yeah. They do. They have a life as well. The arrows.
Okay, yes, they'll break after like maybe 3 uses or whatever. That makes sense.
Yeah, but. They're quite good, and there's different types of arrows as well. So you can get ones that are like they've got like a sound on it. So you shoot it, it creates a sound, and all the zombies go over there and piss off and leave you alone.
Yeah.
And there's loads of little things, like really cool little things. You can get these little robots as well, and you wind it up, and then you drop it, and the robot walks off and then makes a noise, and everyone follows it, and you can go and do something else.
Nice.
There's little bits like that. They're so cool.
It sounds all positive at the moment, and I have to ask the question about whether or not this will go into the Dimp Digital Gaming Gallery, and as part of your personal recognition, part of your personal exhibition, which is full of all sorts in there. God of War Ragnarok, I think, was the last one you've put in there, and last year we had The Last of Us Part 1 and a few other bits and pieces. Sifu, which was one of your favourites from last year. Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, just naming a few that have gone in. Does The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners earn a place into the gaming gallery?
Yeah, to be honest, I guarantee anyone that plays it, like when you break it down, will have so much fun. Like
right.
It's so fun to play. It's so good. So yeah, I'd definitely put it in there. To be honest, I didn't even think, when you asked me for a game, I didn't even think about putting it in there. But I don't even know when it was released, because I think it was released quite a long time.
2020, but there's people that are, especially now with PlayStation VR 2 out, there's a little bit of a hype going on around VR and whatnot. Like, if I think that's been ported over, is going to be at some point. If it's not, they probably will do it. But yeah, it's there's no limit on the age of these games. I mean, Adkins reviewed the original Resident Evil 4 the other day, 2005, and he went, "Oh, I'm doing it as though I was playing it back in 2005." You know, so all the systems back then, whether they were in it or not. And I was thinking, now that he can't remember what happened yesterday. He's trying to fucking. He's trying to.
You're not meant to be here. I'm in 2005.
No, he's like trying to remember what it was like in 2005 to play a game. I was like, he's fucking on crack again. But anyway, it's up to him. You can classify Saints and Sinners with either a platinum, gold, silver, or a bronze. Where is it going to go in terms of a classification and award?
Do you know what? I'd give it a platinum.
Oh! It's gone top
strong,
banana.
But I guarantee if anyone played it, I think you'd really struggle to be like, oh, it wasn't my sort of thing. Like, it's got like so many aspects of it. If you like The Walking Dead, it's really good. If you like sort of zombie games, it's really good. And if you don't like either of those and you just want a good VR headset game, it's really good. So it just sort of ticks all the boxes, sort of thing. If it was just like on a controller and you were playing it, it would be tragic. But because you're doing it and you're, like I say, it's like really intuitive, and you're stabbing things and you're slicing things and you're opening doors and you're crouching through holes and you're trying to find a way into a house. There's so many aspects to it. And if you play it, I lend it to you, there'll be stuff that you'll be telling me and I'll go, oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you about that, or I forgot to tell you about that.
Yeah.
Or, there's so much to it. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those real showcase games for VR, that people need to, if they either have a headset and this is on that platform, to go out and get it, because it showcases all the best parts of virtual reality, not necessarily the worst parts, and it's packed into a reasonably meaty game. It's not a tech demo or a 2-hour experience. It's a full game with story, plot, gameplay mechanics, start, finish, middle, all that good stuff.
The only problem is, because it's the first game I've properly played, after that, I went and played, I think it's called Vader Immortals, like a Star Wars game, and I was like, this is shit. It's like, it's set the bar so high now that everything's just like...
downhill a little bit. That's But no, good to see. So that's the platinum, that's excellent. I love to see that. I love to see some positivity. Too much negativity. It mainly comes from me. I normally crap on things. So I like to see things go in. I mean, Chapter 2 is out. What's the hold up on diving into that at this stage? You just need a bit of a break from... So I can imagine it being quite taxing, playing like a VR game and then playing a game like this, which is super intense, like when the action's kicking off. I can imagine you want a bit of a fucking rest, maybe.
Yeah, he's like I say. And another thing is you're making decisions as well. It's not just like the story changes.
Right, okay, right.
So it's very much like the Telltale game in that, I remember... this is sort of, we said this before, that I'd play that game on the train and I get to work and I'm like, fucking hell, I've made life and death choices here, I've not even started work. And it's the same with that. You come downstairs and like Vic's like, you're right. And I'm like, no, someone's just got a fucking bullet in the head because of something I've said. So it is a bit full on, and it's not saying, you sort of just play and you don't use your brain and you can just switch off. You've got to be on the ball with it. The only reason I haven't bought the second one is basically I'm just waiting for Jedi Survivor to come out. That's my next game I want to play.
Makes
sense. And then once Jedi Survivor's done, I'll probably go back to that and just have a little bit of a break. I don't want to do sort of VR overkill sort of thing.
No. Excellent. Well, a positive segment all round. Quest VR getting the thumbs up, and then also Saints and Sinners getting 2 thumbs up, really, if we go back to old style scoring. But that's excellent. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners earned itself a platinum. Biff's enjoying his Quest at the moment, but we'll see if that lasts for years on end. And maybe if you pick up Chapter 2, we'll reconvene and have a chat about that one, see if they've improved on the formula and made it better. But
okay.
But no, thanks for giving us up your time for this particular episode. Everyone else, if you made it this far, thanks for joining us. But nothing more for us to say other than thanks for your time and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.